My family and I call Clearwater our home church. We're so happy to see you here this morning. I have a few announcements to make. If I could get everyone to just open up your bulletins. Pull out this little Clearwater card here. This is how we keep in touch with each of you. If this is your very first time attending Clearwater, we are so glad that you are here this morning. And we would love the opportunity to say thank you for coming. So if you wouldn't mind putting a name and a good email address, and we would not put you on any long-term mailing list, I promise. I know everybody gets a million emails. But we would just like an opportunity to acknowledge that you came today and that you spent some time with us. And then for the rest of you who have been attending for a while, this is still really important. We would love to have you fill this out as well. Put your name, a good email address. If you are not currently receiving our midweek encouragement from Pastor David, we would encourage you to check the little box on the back and give us a good email address so that we can get that encouragement to you. We also have, if you look on there are a lot of other opportunities. If you want more information about getting involved in a life group, if you would like to volunteer in some aspect, if you have a prayer or a praise, this is the card where you put that down. We have a team who prays diligently over these prayer requests every single week, and we would be honored to come alongside of you and lift you and your family up in prayer. These little cards, we have some tables here on the side. We received communion and the offering after Pastor Randy has finished his sermon, and you can place these cards right in the basket. If this is your very first time attending, we would ask that you take this out to the welcome desk right outside in the gallery, and they would like to mug you. And we say that in the most loving way. We would like to gift your family with a Clearwater coffee mug. So nothing criminal about it. It's just our way of saying thank you again for coming. And after you've been attending a little while, we do something called mug shots. And it can either be with your Clearwater mug, or it can just be this mug. But we like to put names with faces and just see what you guys are doing outside of church. This mug shot this morning, though, is actually in church. This is our group of kiddos that meet at 9 a.m. We have a program that starts at 9 a.m. for kids to go deeper into the Word. And they have all finished the book of Judges, so they're being strong like Gideon, and they're so precious. And they love this time. I tell you, I have peeked in there before, and they are building relationships and learning about Jesus in the most beautiful way. So if you have a kiddo and you want to get them deeper into the Word, this is the place for them to be. We have lots of Christmas announcements this morning. It is that time of year. Today, we are going to have Christmas in the gallery. At 5 o'clock, you can bring some cookies to share, and you get to see all sorts of talent. We have some really talented folks in this church. I'm just going to brag a moment. But you get to see all sorts of talent. It's a great time to have some fun and to get to know one another and to eat cookies. Who doesn't want cookies before dinner, right? Because it's at 5, so you're going to eat dinner after your cookies. All right, and then we have our Christmas children's program. These kids have worked so hard. They are memorizing lines, they are memorizing songs. It is going to be a beautiful production, and that is going to be on the 15th at 1:30. It is a potluck, so bring a dish, come support our kiddos, and come see just how much they poured into this production. It is going to be something. Christmas Eve candlelight service, if you find this in your bulletin, this is an invitation so that you can invite your friends and neighbors, coworkers maybe. Christmas Eve candlelight service is amazing. It is one of my favorite times. We use real candles, that's right, real candles, so you have to be really careful. Even the kiddos get candles, so it can be an exciting time. We are going to sing Christmas carols, and there's also going to be an opportunity for all of the children who are in attendance that night to participate, and that is always so much fun. They love getting up here on stage and participating, and it's not a huge challenge, but for really tiny kids, they can bring a parent up as well. But it's just going to be such a sweet time to celebrate this time of year, to celebrate Jesus, and to just lift him up in praise. I know it gets so busy, and this is a time to slow down a little bit and enjoy the season for what it is. Did everything?
I think you did. Good job. Thanks, Angela. Good morning, everybody. My name's Randy. I'm one of the pastors here. Everybody awake? Oh boy, that was some good worship. I tell you, if you're new here, you do not have to be bald to be in our leadership. It looks like that. It's just a coincidence. So for the next few weeks, we're going to be doing a new series for Christmas. I would like to look into Old Testament prophecies about the coming Jesus. And so we're going to call this series Birth Announcements. Isn't it fun to get birth announcements when people tell you what's going on? Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but my daughter, who is my second child, is pregnant with our third grandchild. Isn't that cool? And she is really acting strangely for this generation. She is waiting till Christmas Day to open her present. In other words, she doesn't know what gender it will be until the day of. Now, folks today kind of think it's a little strange that people, a lot of older people think, gosh, why do you want to know the gender of your child? But so many people, not only do they give you a birth announcement, but they give you a gender reveal. And I want you to know that this is biblical. Yeah, God gave a gender reveal long before his son was ever born. And he let us know that it would be a boy. Isn't that wild? So don't get upset with the millennials. They're just being biblical. So we're going to talk about all sorts of different passages where God is long time before Jesus ever born proclaiming that he would be born. Don't you love that? What I love about that is he's so proud of his boy that he just wants to tell everybody, my son's coming, and man, is he going to straighten things out. It's so beautiful. Because when the son was born, then all he did was honor his dad. And there was just this beautiful relationship between father and son. But God bragged about his son clear back to early parts of Genesis. You may not know that. But man, there were birth announcements coming out for centuries before Jesus was ever born. Man, that's cool. Today's message is entitled A Light in the Darkness. And that is a description of Jesus himself, who came as a light in the midst of a dark land. We find ourselves today 700 years before Jesus came to earth. And we're going to be reading from a prophet named Isaiah. Now this prophet was an interesting one. He was a prophet to kings. He probably lived in a nice place near the king. And he prophesied at the time when the northern kingdom of Israel, you see, Israel and Judah, basically Israel had been split in half into two kingdoms, a northern and a southern. And the northern kingdom is in the midst of just going away. The Assyrian army has come down and has basically destroyed Samaria, the capital city, and has taken most of the people captive back to Assyria. He's also tried to take Jerusalem as well. And through a miracle, God keeps him from doing it. But Judah is still struggling. The southern kingdom is still struggling. And Isaiah is speaking to the people of this southern kingdom during this time. What's interesting is that he will speak about the problems going on now during his life, 700 years before Jesus. He will also prophesy about the actual downfall of Judah, and he will actually talk about the hope that the people will find after Judah gets destroyed by the Babylonians. And some people think that the dude couldn't have written this whole thing because he'd have to be 200 years old, because it'll be 150 more years before Judah actually falls to the Babylonians. But just understand this. David and I are both of the opinion that it's all written by Isaiah. And he just happened to write it before it ever happened. So like he was preparing the people to have hope long before they needed the hope. It's kind of cool. Israel has lots of woes at this time. Lots of problems. Idolatry has become a monumental problem. The people have turned to other idols, and it's commonplace now for people both to worship God and to worship idols. Religion is ritualistic, and there's no relationship with God. It's just all about going to synagogue, or they didn't have a synagogue then, but doing the temple worship, whatever. And it's just all about what we do for God. It's nothing about relationship. And finally, there's virtually no difference between the Jews and the Gentiles that live around them. Does this seem familiar to you at all? Does it look like our day and age? Frankly, Israel, and I'll say America, is morally swirling down the toilet into desolation and slavery. That's where they're at right now. It's a bad problem. They're in a bad place. Now, what most scholars believe about prophets in the Old Testament, including Isaiah, is that there's this dual fulfillment. And what the dual fulfillment means is that there is a meaning for the people of his day, as well as something for those in the future. It's pretty weird. And it's Isaiah especially. He's so poetic. It's easy to try and make him literal, but he's just being a poet. And trying to figure out everything he's saying is not easy. Okay? So let's read just a little earlier than our text today. But I want you to hear one of the first prophecies from Isaiah about the coming Messiah. Isaiah 7:14. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son. There's the gender reveal. And shall call his name Emmanuel. Now this is cool. Emmanuel means God with us. Now, I have a friend named Emmanuel. We all call him Manny, for short. Just because you get the name God with us doesn't mean that you are half God, half man, or fully God, fully man, excuse me. No, it's simply what they heard was, wow, there's going to be a baby born, and the sign of this baby will be that God is with us. Little did they know that the coming Messiah would be fully God and fully man, and he would be present with us. Now, in your life today, let me ask you this. Can you boldly say, God is with me? God is with me. One of the weirdest little things happened to me this week. I couldn't find my wallet. This is normal for me. Happens a lot. Look everywhere for it and just thought, what in the world has happened? So I just took a moment and I said, Lord, would you tell me where my wallet is? You see it. And would you tell me where it is? Well, he didn't tell me right away. Probably because I wasn't listening right away. But he didn't tell me. But the next day, I was driving home from the church, and all of a sudden I saw a picture in my mind, and I saw my wallet. And I went, oh, there it is. And I drove home and went right to where it was, and there it was. And I pulled it out and showed it to my wife. Gay has this thing about anything that gets lost. She's like that widow who loses the coin and won't stop looking till it's found. Like, she hates lost things. And she was so feeling better after I found the wallet. And I said, Jesus just loves me, doesn't he? She says, it's weird how much he loves me. I said, I feel so loved by him. He told me, I asked him yesterday where my wallet was. I was driving home, he told me where it was. Do you understand that Emmanuel is with us for everything? Like, Emmanuel is with you through everything, and he cares about the smallest of details. Do you live like that? Because that's his desire. He would love for you to enjoy him continuously. And if you're here today and you've never met Jesus, it's not about a bunch of rules and regulations. And it's not about being judgmental. It's about finding pleasure in the God of the universe and enjoying him continuously. I don't know, there wasn't an amen there, but it's really good preaching. Thank you. So that verse is quoted later on by Matthew. When he was talking about the angel Gabriel coming to Mary. And Matthew says this, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel. Matthew quoted this from Isaiah. So Matthew basically is saying, remember the birth announcement? Well, here it is. Now, the Jews at the time of Isaiah wondered if this could be a reference to King Hezekiah. This was written at the time of Hezekiah's dad, Ahaz, and they wondered, could it be him? But there wasn't a whole lot of sign that Hezekiah was God with us. There just wasn't a whole lot of sign from that. So I don't know that you can say that for sure. Isaiah, or others think that the prophecy in Isaiah 7 is a reference to one of Isaiah's sons. Now, I'm surprised that when we looked at Isaiah's two sons that, it's so popular to name your kids after biblical characters. I'm surprised we don't get these. The first one was Shir-Jashub. Wouldn't that be a cool name for your kid? And then there is also, and Shir-Jashub means a remnant shall return, which is a word of promise and a word of hope. That means that after you guys get destroyed, a remnant of you will come back, a small group. The second son is Maher-shalal-Hashbaz. Now, I want you to memorize that name because you can impress your friends and young children by saying that I now know the longest name in the entire Bible. Go ahead and say that to yourself, Maher-shalal-Hashbaz. All right? It's pretty funny. It's just, I wonder what they called him for short. Baz? I don't know. Shalom? I don't know. But anyway, just funny how probably mom, whenever she was made mad, Maher-shalal-Hashbaz. That wore me out. Now his name means swift to the booty, speedy to the prey. Some people believe that this is a reference to him because he was born shortly after Isaiah 7. And his picture is one of Jesus. In fact, both Shir-Jashub and Maher-shalal-Hashbaz are pictures of Jesus. Because Jesus would come, and the booty is you and me. He would save us from the enemy, pluck us up from the enemy. And he would do it in supernatural power. And then a remnant, a small number of Israel would believe, but only a small number would believe in Jesus. So they're both a picture of Jesus. But, frankly, the whole picture of Emmanuel is a picture of the coming Jesus. It's beautiful. Now let me jump into the passage I have for today, because it gets even better. If you have a Bible, I invite you to open it to Isaiah 9. This is an interesting statement here. Most people don't, they just read over it and miss it. But Isaiah says, but there will be no gloom for her who was in anguish. In the former time he brought into contempt the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. But in the latter time he has made glorious the way of the sea, the land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. Now, way back several hundred years before this, Naphtali and Zebulun, who were two sons of Israel, were given what is known as a major part of the northern kingdom, which is now called Galilee. And the reason he says there will be no gloom for her who is in anguish is because the northern kingdom has just been destroyed by the Assyrian army. So there'll be no gloom for her. Why? Because something's going to happen in that place. Galilee of the nations. Why he says Galilee of the nations is because they have put many nations back into the country from all over the place. But the obvious point is this. The Messiah is going to be born in Galilee. He's going to come out of Galilee. And most of the Jews of Jesus' day didn't really know that. A lot of them did not know it. Most of them thought it would be out of Bethlehem. But Isaiah clearly says he's going to come out of Galilee. Pretty cool. Then it says, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them a light has shone. So you got to hear this. He's talking to the southern kingdom. Their northern neighbors have just been demolished. I mean, you can't think of a darker time. Imagine if America has been absolutely demolished by a foreign foe. That would be a dark time. And he's saying that people who are walking in darkness will see a great light. It's going to be his son. Then it says, you have multiplied the nation. Did you guess this? You have multiplied the nation. That means the nation got bigger. Not just by adding people, but by multiplying numbers. This is a picture of what happened after Jesus died and was resurrected, and people from the Gentiles get planted in with the tree of Israel. This is so cool. I get excited about it. You've increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with joy in the harvest, as they are glad when they divide the spoil. Man, this is two great pictures for an agricultural country. Harvest, man, that is good fun. Look at all the stuff we got. Look at all this. And then when there is a war, people go out and pluck off all the riches off of the dead bodies. That's dividing the spoil. This is a happy day. Now, I don't know if you caught this word in here. Did you catch the word glad? In the Hebrew, the word literally means rejoice. Are you glad today? If you're not, can you tell your emotions to choose to be glad? I'm going to choose to be glad. You see, when Jesus comes into your life, when Emmanuel comes around, the normal default is joy. Now, I don't know how many of you have met my fairly new grandson, Ezra. Now, here's the cool thing about Ezra. He looks like my daughter-in-law's dad, who is a great friend of mine, which is really cool to me. He looks just like him. But he's got my personality. He's just happy all the time. My mom and my dad told me that when I was a little kid, I was happy about everything. They showed me a whole movie of me in this little field below the Grand Tetons. My parents went up there for a little vacation over a weekend, and I was running around as a toddler, and I thought, life cannot get any better than this. My default was joy. My mom called me her joy. Ezra, I mean, it's so funny. He just is a happy guy. So funny. My daughter will be carrying him around, and he'll have a straight face. He's just walking, going along. And then I'll walk up to him and say, hey. And he goes, now, my granddaughter truly is awesome. You guys have seen her. I used to come up and say hey to her, and she'd go, So there's a difference here. You see, the default for when Emmanuel is with me is rejoicing. That's where I go back to. That's the norm. It's the norm to be a joyful person. Are you getting this? It is normal to be joyful when Emmanuel is here. Why? For the yoke of his burden and the staff for his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor you have broken as on the day of Midian. This is an interesting historical reference. Most people believe that this reference to Midian is when Gideon, with 300 guys, destroyed an army of thousands. And these Midianites were oppressing Israel for decades until those 300 guys took care of those thousands. So what he's saying is that when Emmanuel comes around, he's going to break off the oppression of the enemy, just like that day that Gideon broke off the power of Midian. Has it happened for you? Has it happened for you? You know, when I was a kid, there was a Glad wrap commercial. Now, Glad was impressed with how strong their plastic wrap was. And they said, look at our main competitors. And they pulled out a sheet of it, and the woman would stick her pretty little fingernail into it and it'd go right through it. But with Glad, your new default, she would stick her finger into it and it would go, you couldn't get through. And many of us feel this way. Man, I'm just trying to break off the power of this oppression in my life. And Emmanuel broke through. Broke it off. Broke off the yoke of the oppressor. Then he gets pretty bloody here. He says, for every boot of the trampling warrior in battle tunic, and every garment rolled in blood will be burned as fuel for the fire. In other words, it's going to be the end of war. The end of war. For to us a child is born. To us a son is given. I think this is profound. First of all, there's the gender reveal again. But the son is given. Right here we already know that Daddy is willing to give up his son. This is the most scandalous thing about God's nature in the entire Scripture. It's frankly scandalous that God would be willing to give up his son for his enemies. Are you getting that? Like, try and figure that one out. What a loving Father. It says, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. This is interesting. Looked up government in the Hebrew. It literally means either government or rule or dominion. I don't know if you've ever been in charge of something, but you feel a load on your shoulders. Makes sense. Now, this picture right here that you're looking at is what gave the Jews the wrong picture about Jesus. They thought he was going to be the king of Israel in a civil sense, like the literal king of Israel. While the disciples were following Jesus, James and John's mother came to him and said, Lord, can I talk to you in private? Sure. I'd like to ask a favor. Sure, what do you got in mind? I'd like for my sons, whenever you come in your kingdom, in other words, whenever you start ruling over Israel again and you wipe out the Romans, could my two boys sit on your right and left hand? You see, she was thinking, based on this, that Jesus was going to set up his government in Israel. Right before Jesus went up to heaven, the disciples looked at Jesus and said, is it now that you're going to set up the kingdom of Israel? And Jesus said, it's not for you to know. I'm sure Jesus was thinking, these guys are so clueless. But it's real easy to see why they thought he was going to be a literal king. It says that his name interesting that he's already given us the name Emmanuel. Now he's going to throw on 4 more names. Folks, most of us in America go by one name and then a last name, a family name. It's kind of interesting to have lots of names. And typically in our culture, if you have a lot of names, you're identified as one of 2 things. First, you're Hispanic, which I think the Hispanics have really got this picture of Jesus. Like my stepmother-in-law, I've asked her several times and I can't get it memorized, but I say, Maria, can you tell me your whole name? And she's from Mexico, and she says, Maria Aurora Amara Renata Amara Renata, and she goes on for about 4 minutes. Do you understand that her Hispanic parents, they're putting all sorts of destiny into this kid with all these names. It's cool. And Americans just go, can you just stick to Maria? Could we just go, we just don't even get it. The second thing that bugs us about a lot of names is when somebody changes, like you come up and you meet somebody and their name is Robert, and then 2 days later they introduce themselves as Dan. And then you're in another context with them and you go, and they say their name is Steve, and you start going, you're weird. You've got lots of weird, why can you not stick with one name? We think, well, this is a faker. Somebody's trying to con somebody. But you see, with Jesus and with his Father, he gets lots of names because none of them can describe him well enough by themselves. And so Jesus, which is a great name, is an awesome name, is his given name, but he's also called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Well, and let's think about these names. I'm going to call this the God-Man sandwich. Now, the first one that he gives us is Wonderful Counselor. A counselor in their day was not somebody that sat in a chair and took notes while you laid on the couch and told them your problems. A counselor for them was somebody who was second to the king, who gave good and wise counsel, wisdom. Catch this? Wonderful. Don't you love the name Wonderful Counselor? That means that his counsel is beyond normal. It causes wonder. It's so wise. Do you need counsel today? Do you need wisdom? Do you need direction? Here's what David said about the Wonderful Counselor. From the words of the counselor himself, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. Did you know that God desires to give you? He desires to give you what you need today. What do you need counsel for? Will you ask him? Wonderful Counselor. Now let's look at the last word. Wonderful Counselor and Prince of Peace. Wow. I grew up as a very young child in the 1960s. And And peace was the biggest word at that time. Everybody did this. Peace, man. Like I look back at teenagers in my day and age when I was too young to know what was going on, and every picture they took, they were going like this. Because we wanted to get out of the Vietnam War, we just wanted peace. The Beatles were all about peace. It was all about peace. And we got none of it. We got none of it. It's because we didn't know the Prince of Peace. You see, the Prince of Peace is the guy that is the one who establishes peace wherever he goes. Now I want you to think about those two terms. Both of these are a description of a man. Now let's look at the two other ones. Mighty God. Now that's interesting. This new child will be called Mighty God. So right here, 700 years before Jesus came around, we are hearing that this Messiah would not only be man, but would be mighty God. Now catch that word mighty. Mighty. Strong. He is strong. He's capable of taking care of what concerns me. Mighty God. Now think about this one. Everlasting Father, or in the Hebrew, Father of eternity. Now wait a minute. I thought you just called him the Prince, but you're also calling him the Father? And Jesus said, he who has seen me has seen the Father. Wow. Now this is an unusual concept for the Hebrews at this time. They didn't see God as Father. They saw him as judge, ruler, God, Father of eternity. This new prince would not only be a man, but he would be a God. Those two on the inside describe God. So, this coming Messiah would be a God. I love what John says in fulfillment of Isaiah. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We've seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. Wow. Now look what it says next. Of the increase of his government and of peace, there will be no end. I want you to go home and meditate on that little line right there. It will mess with you. His government will increase. Now, I just want you, those of you who are conservatives, Jesus believes in big government. His. Okay? His government. We'll talk about this more in a second. On the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore, the zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. So let's go back and look at that first line. The increase of his government and of peace, there will be no end. Catch this. Did you look at this? Where his government governs, there is peace. See, government and peace are joined together. So wherever he's in charge, there's peace. And Paul describes it as peace that passes all understanding, like it's deep peace. The level he governs me is the level to which I have peace. In other words, the level to which I let him be in charge of me is the level to which I will walk in peace. So if I'm lacking peace today, guess who's in charge? One. Will have no end is measured both in time and in amount. Catch that for a minute. So, his government will go on forever. Daniel agrees with this when he prophesies about Jesus coming. All sorts of guys, when they get birth announcements, they say, his kingdom will last forever. But not only does it last forever, but I can't ask him for too much. Like, there's so much peace available to me that it's beyond. And I can allow him to govern more and more and more in my life. That's what life is all about right now, is learning to let Jesus govern me. Here's what's cool about it. His yoke is easy and his load is light. He's not a manipulator. He's not a dominator. He'll let me he'll let him lead me, or I can let him lead me at whatever level I want to. But he's after me. He's after me. He wants every ounce of me. Because at the level he governs me is the level to which I experience peace. Now, it's not peace for everybody, because I have family members who are not allowing him to govern. Anybody ever have a prodigal living in your house? A child that wants nothing to do with you and nothing to do with God? Miserable. There can be very few more things more miserable than that. No peace. Why? Because somebody doesn't want Jesus to govern them. And it causes division, frustration. Wow, I sense the Holy Spirit saying something. Can I just ask you to close your eyes for a minute? Just for a second. If you are a prodigal, a child that is fighting against God and against your family, would you and you would like to just let Jesus govern your life, would you mind raising your hand? Anybody else? I'm going to pray for you, dear Father. I just want to ask that you would let me be ruled by you. I'm going to surrender my will and let your will be done. In Jesus' name. Amen. I'm going to skip the next slide. So let's go down to the last line. He will be called great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end. That's what it says in Luke. A prophecy fulfilled. Now, there are 3 times of fulfillment according to Scripture. Isaiah's time, or shortly thereafter, shows us that this prophecy about Emmanuel, about Jesus, has little fulfillment. But when Jesus comes, in Jesus' lifetime, there's going to be partial fulfillment to this. It'll be partly partial. As great scholars I know, they say, already not yet. Some of the kingdom is come. The new heaven and the new earth, which I wonder how you guys feel about this. I felt urged by the Holy Spirit to teach in the new year about heaven and hell. How do you feel about that? Yes. I wonder if you know much about heaven. Do you think about like playing a harp on a cloud? I have good news. That's not what heaven is. Some of you non-musicians are thrilled. All right, Randy, tell me when to come. But when the new earth comes, Jesus will reign in Jerusalem and rule over the earth. And the new earth, did you know this? The earth is going to be heaven. He's going to recreate it. Boy, are we going to have fun with that. So the kingdom of God today, where we're at today is this. Wherever the king is, and wherever he's free to be himself, that's where his kingdom is. Get that? Wherever the king is, and wherever he's free to be himself. Did you ever catch the story of Jesus walking away from his hometown, going, "Doggone, a prophet's not without honor except in his hometown." And he could only do a few miracles there. Why? Because he wasn't allowed to be himself. Where Jesus is allowed to be himself, he just does amazing things. The elders prayed for a lady right down here last week, and we all just said, "Wow, he's just free to be himself." And she's not had any symptoms all week. This king reigns at some level or is unwelcome in the life of every person. The king reigns at some level in my life today, or he is not welcome. Where are you at? He rules wherever he's welcome. And he rules with a beautiful rule. It's full of righteousness and justice. Did you catch that? His rule is full of righteousness and justice. That's what we yearn for. Will you pray with me? Anybody here that has never given your life to Jesus and would like to give your life to him today and let him rule? Would you raise your hand for me? Who would say, I've invited Jesus into my life, but I still have a lot of misery. And I wonder if you'd pray for me that I would receive his peace. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So Lord, we're just inviting your peace upon us. And that your peace only comes where you're in charge. So where am I not allowing you to be in charge? I give you that today.